All right, welcome back to Game Design Workshop with Game Camp. My name's Connor, and I'm not involved with these guys here. This is a tech demo for Unreal 5, so we're just going to be watching some footage and seeing some sort of stuff that's possible with Unreal 5 kind of games as we are running this, just so we have something to look at and be concentrated on. It's not just a list of tutorials or things like this. So we are going to start by recapping the stuff that we worked on last week. Last week we sort of established some of the main basics of what we're talking about and the shared vocabulary and terminology that we're going to be referring back to. First of all, simply we asked the question, what is a game? And we established that games are interactive activities with a beginning, a middle, and an outcome that have players. At least minimum one player can participate. Interactivity, so the player must be able to interact with that game, make decisions, and take actions that influence the outcome. It is played in sessions, which have a beginning, middle, and an end. A game cannot last forever. And they have objectives. There must be a goal or set of potential goals or tracks of accomplishment for the player to achieve. The achievement of these goals must be measurable in an objective and tangible way beyond just, did the players have fun? And that's always going to be that difference between an improv theater exercise versus an actual game. We have a sense of progression or potential objectives that can be accomplished. And lastly, there's going to be that way to objectively succeed or fail at those potential goals in the game. Even in immersive sim-style games or things like The Sims or Crusader Kings, we often have no default or strictly necessary objectives or outcomes, but these are still games because the players are choosing from an array of available tracks of accomplishment. Okay, that's a lot of our just ground-level basics in terms of what is a game and what does it require. We also talked about things like rules and procedures and the relationship between these and how we can apply them in thinking about and designing games. Because games are at this really interesting junction of art and logic. Sorry, does somebody have a question? Go ahead.
Excuse me, sorry, I didn't realise my microphone was on. Pardon me.
No problem. You're here for the Unreal Workshop, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Welcome. We're just recapping what we talked about last week.
Oh, I thought this was the first event.
This is the first official event. We just had like a sort of introductory little meetup before where we went over some basics.
Okay, sure thing. No worries.
Okay, cool. So let's continue recapping that. So we were talking rules and procedures and the way that games sit at this weird and interesting intersection of art and logic, because it's kind of art through logic, or we can think of this as art in and as rules and procedures. And it's strange because our methods almost seem to clash. In that what we're trying to do is create a series of cold and mechanical systems and rules and procedures that are supposed to make people feel something. But we can ask the question, what are we trying to make people feel, and how do we go about doing that? Especially, how do we do that with these essentially mathematical processes, like the application of rules in our game, the blueprints that we're executing in Unreal, or these, the very many systems that go into making up a game, like the graphics you see here, the particle systems for the water, the interesting volumetric lighting, the character animation, the blend spaces between the different animation states. All these things kind of work together to create that ultimate sort of feelings that the game is trying to engender and generate in the player. But what are we trying to make people feel? I think we can sort of outline that initial, just most basic question of what are we trying to make people feel as fun, right? But what is fun? If we centered the intro on the question of what is a game, let's center this meetup on this question of what is fun. Let's start by just opening with that question. What do you guys think if you had to define what is fun?
I mean, I can define little elements of a game that are fun. Are you talking about just one overarching definition that encompasses everything?
Yeah, as best you can, whatever you want to say. I mean, like, is fun a feeling?
I think what you're really talking about is sort of like game feel, is what people call it, or...
That's how we talk about it in relation to game design, definitely. I guess just in the broadest sense, though, I'm asking, like, is fun an emotion? I would say probably not, because you don't just, like, feel fun. Fun is, like, the result of something you do. Would you agree?
Right.
Okay. So if fun is the result of something we do, and it's not just, like, an emotion, we have to ask, how do we get to that almost like alchemy that is like several different processes working together that kind of go on to create this feeling of fun. It's
right.
And in working in isolation, any of those feelings would not create fun, similarly to how individual elements of the game are not a game. Like just working in individuality, they are tech demos or tools or stories or charts of numbers, but they're not a game. So under the umbrella of like the larger concept of fun, players, there's like a lot of different emotions that go into it. We have like in what we're looking at right now, maybe a sense of awe and wonder can go into that sense of fun. We can create these emotions and these negative emotions in this safe way, like something scary. Like we went looking at Jessica's maze that she made. You could have a jump scare. That is not inherently a nice emotion, but it can create that feeling of fun still, right? So what we're doing is crafting systems and processes that ultimately go to orchestrate these human feelings. What else do you guys think? What else creates that feeling of fun and accomplishment in a game?
There's so many exploration.
Okay, finding new things.
Number go up.
Yeah, number go up.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say like noticing that you're doing better.
Oh, improving over time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Noticing progression yourself.
Like you're able to do something. Like I think a lot of games do this where they'll have kind of a tutorial thing where it's like, okay, now, baby step doing this, and then you're like, well, how, oh, wow, I can do that thing that was so hard at first.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that sense of self-progression, in addition to progression within the game's systems, like not only am I getting a bigger sword, but I myself am getting better at the game. What else creates that sense of fun?
Power fantasy, wish fulfillment.
Sure. What do we see here? Flying, right?
Yeah.
There's something just viscerally, visually engaging about this, isn't there?
I think so. I mean, most popular game franchise of all time, maybe besides Minecraft, is a game, GTA. It's about crimes, murder, mayhem, anarchy, and all of the above. So things people can't do in real life.
Yeah, stuff we can't do, stuff that's it's like better than real life, because it's life in a world where we would get to do exactly what we want, where we don't have to obey the laws of the road, where you get to do cool things that have clear visual impact to them. Anything else you guys want to add in terms of what makes something just basically fun?
A sense of like toyetic or like play, like a good example of this might be Mario. What's the one called after Mario Galaxy?
Odyssey.
Mario Odyssey. So Mario in that is very sort of like squishy and interactive and pliable, and just there's all kinds of little things you can do with him, and you can I don't know, you can dress him up and you can find new hats for him and stuff, and you can turn him into things that turn into other things. It's like playing with a toy.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
a
best
great
way I
point.
can put it.
Cool. So like a high level of interactivity with the world or with the character, and the feeling that I can really play with those things. Like I can get lots of different effects out of what the game offers me, and I can use the toys that it has given me, and see stuff happen that I don't get to do every day. These are all good points. It's interesting also when we look at specifically more than just fun, like, because so many games are about more than just watching a number go up or having fun in that sort of very visceral, almost instinctual kind of way that it really like mimics that feeling of having accomplished work, doesn't it? Like especially when we talk about maybe I'll just slow down a little bit and talk about that concept first. The idea that we're trying to hack the same part of the brain that is accessed when you actually accomplish something in the real world, wouldn't you say? Like imagine all these like farming sim style games and strategy and management style games where it feels like you're sort of asserting a sense of control over a system and you're gaining a reward that you feel like you work for and earn.
Sure.
How about like, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I think like some enemy that like made you mad, and then now you're like you kill them, right? Like it's kind of like you're getting better, whatever, the character's getting better, but there's something satisfying about like something that was really tough, and then now you're like getting payback or something.
Yeah, like breaking through barricades to overcome tough accomplishments with the tools and abilities that you've gained and learned along the way.
Overcoming challenges, yeah, solving puzzles. I was going to say just expressing yourself or your creativity. Like gameplay itself is sort of like a form of self-expression. People play games like Euro Truck Sim, and I don't get this at all, but they plot their routes out, and they have their favorite trucks, and they have their favorite stuff, and they post about it on forums, and they I don't know, it's a whole thing, and it's unique, and it's sort of like a way for individuals to express themselves in a community, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, even these niche interests, like, you have a way of sort of telling stories about different types of experiences, or even if there's not really a story, you kind of make your own, or like you are the story. In terms of story and like emotional effect as well, we can think of how what we're watching is the result of processes. I saw this blueprint on the Unreal Marketplace for only $8 that allows your characters in the game to reach out and hold hands procedurally when they stand close to each other. The sockets just sort of drift out and knit together, which allows them, it parents the hands sockets, and it allows them to move together in this really organic way while holding hands. It's a purely mechanical interaction. It's governed entirely by bones and triggers and animations, but the impact of even seeing the little placeholder mannequins in Unreal holding hands, like, you can't deny that that's a very deeply human gesture to see. And what we're seeing is a logical system within a game that evokes a deeply human response. So you can think of almost like the way that the difference between a normal art medium is that if you imagine a traditional painting of a fire, for instance, we see on our screen here, think of painting a forest fire. In a traditional medium like painting, the flames and smoke would be static, right? Capturing a single feeling in a single frame. But in a game, those flames could be dynamic, created by particle systems like Niagara. They can rise and spread at 60 frames per second as the forest burns. The players could even chop down a tree and watch it fall and send embers drifting out into the chugging smoke. It might even roll down a hill using a particle or using some sort of physics-based system and knock over a fire hydrant and spray the woods with water and save the town. And that was all the results of carefully designed rules and systems, but they come together to form this ultimately compelling, immersive, and meaningful experience. So we are trying to create that feeling of fun, but there's all kinds of byproducts and functions of that term fun and of that idea of fun that we can sort of discover and exploit along the way to grab people's attention and maintain it as much as possible. Anyone want to expand on that idea or ask any questions to dig any deeper into those topics before we move on?
Yeah, I think I'd just like to chime in, connect with you guys. I think for me personally, when I'm completely immersed in a game story, the point where game story and environment and mechanics that I'm in, I become in that flow state. So when I kind of put down the controller and 2 hours have gone by and I'm like, wow, I was deep in that there. I was really in that flow state. I think that's when I know that I'm really enjoying a game.
Yeah, the flow
And I don't
state.
even know.
That's a
I
good
don't, I
point.
don't even notice I'm playing it. I'm just in it. That's when I know that I'm. I love this game.
So let's think, what are the components of that flow state? I think we've got maybe, you mentioned the narrative, so that's a part of it, right? But not the entire picture. What else leads to you feeling that immersed?
Yeah, of course, narrative's one of my favorite points, but beautiful environment art, like what we're watching now, like
Mm-hmm.
this is hugely one of the main reasons I got into game development. I'm actually an environment artist, so exploring beautiful environments really captivate me and make me curious. I just like to explore every nook and cranny of the whole environment, and as I say, it's at those times when I'm completely immersed, and I don't even notice that I'm playing the game.
Right. So we've got the exploration and the environment and the atmosphere, I think, play a huge role in that concept of immersion, coupled with the narrative, and also probably coupled with our third major thing, which would be just the systems of the game themselves. Are they systems that the player can learn enough that it doesn't feel like we're fighting with them or that it's a chore to pull them off? Like, they become so intuitive and easy that they're like second nature, and you stop thinking about the controller in your hand. Do you think that's a part of it too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not having to think, oh, what do I press to access this area? Like once it becomes second nature and you're doing it on autopilot, I guess. It can really keep you in that flow state as well. So, of course, when you've got really complex mechanics and of boss fights and stuff, that becomes a little bit different. You've got to really um, think about your gameplay and your strategy. But for me, just like simple exploration, like what we're watching, is honestly where I find the most enjoyment out of games. So yeah, um, simple mechanics for exploration and uncovering story elements through that exploration is important to me.
Yeah, it's hard to be immersed in a game if you're confused or if you're struggling to figure out what to do. Um, and that it feels like you're doing work. Like games shouldn't typically feel like we're working, even as we exploit that same similar brain process of having accomplished something. Like we're trying to gamify that to some extent. So these are great topics on these are great thoughts on the topic of immersion. Does somebody else want to weigh in? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about flow state, like a completely different kind of flow state that uh, requires like high performance and like learning advanced mechanics and stuff. And one of my favorite games is Ninja Gaiden Black. It's just blisteringly fast paced, like brutal combat. But like once you've like learned it, and you're just sort of like, I don't know, it's almost like tunnel vision Zen. You're just listening for the enemy's attacks and sort of um, countering and just doing everything on sort of instinct or muscle memory. And it's really, really, really satisfying at that kind of like flow state if a game can pull it off. Um, but it's completely different than just like walking around and like Last of Us and just looking at all the beautiful uh, bicycles and foliage and uh, tin cans and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's different people who enter the flow state in different ways, or they're looking for different things. You never really forget that Ninja Gaiden is a game. There's combo numbers and points that are flashing all over the screen. Like it's not trying to trick you into thinking it's real. So yeah, different gamers value different or are immersed by different elements of the design. Some more than others.
I mean, they're both completely immersive, but in completely different sort of ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, something like Tetris can be deeply immersive, but we wouldn't say it's immersive in the sense of it's realistic and I feel like I'm there, because where are you? Like on a field of blocks? It doesn't even make sense.
No, you're just on the edge of your seat playing it.
Right. Getting lost in the experience, just one more turn, just one more round, that kind of feeling is really key to flow state.
Oh yeah, just one more round. Yeah, like we could talk about Civ 5 that has that addictive quality.
Yeah, what creates that addictive quality?
I'm not sure. It just probably just all these different little systems that have multiple turns. You sort of never feel like you're finished on a single turn, so you just want to do one more turn.
Oh, multiple tracks of progression or reward or accomplishment. Yep, definitely. And you can't do everything on a turn either. In Civ, especially, you can only build one building or one unit at a time, and only research one thing at a time. So, tracks of progression that are long and that you can only advance along very incrementally. Mobile games really exploit this a lot of the time. Any other suggestions on what makes a game feel addictive?
Oh, addictive?
Well, that's
gotcha
not
mechanics
in a bad way, I wouldn't think, but that feeling of I just got to do one more round.
Well, I mean, we could talk about like a story, The Last of Us, or something that just has such a compelling main narrative that you just want to sort of get to that next chapter.
True. Yeah, for sure. The story can be if the story is really compelling, then that's something that keeps people playing and keeps them engaged and makes them want to beat the next level, regardless of how good the gameplay is, because they want to know what happens next. The standards are pretty low for this. What is considered good game writing is like most people don't even try. So even if it's kind of good, people will be like, that game is a great story. Good point.
I think to touch on, to expand on what Luke just said, I think curiosity, making players curious about the story, not giving them too much, so that they're just left with enough to say, I wonder what the next part of this story is, or what happens next. Just leaving them a little bit curious, whether that's through environment design or other story elements. I've been looking into the concept of curiosity quite a lot lately, and I'm quite excited to explore it further and implementing it into game design.
Yeah, maybe we can call this anticipation, because if we're waiting for something that will pay off in some kind of way, whether that's just something that feels like there's something on the other side of this door, right? Just looking at this, you feel like, well, my character can probably go through there, and there's something interesting on the other side. The game developers are like inviting me through here.
Absolutely, yeah. I
Castlevania.
want to go through there because the clever use of light as well, of course, is directing the player's eye. Oh, what's behind that door?
Yeah, that's nice. Castlevania Symphony of the Night does this, hinting at sort of like what you can expect. They start you off with like a bunch of gear, and then immediately, like 2 or 3 minutes in, death shows up and takes away all your gear, and you have to start from like level 1 with nothing.
Oh yeah.
So
This is a certain kind of like promise setting that certain games do, where you sort of give the players a preview of their full range of abilities at the very start, and then very quickly they lose access to all of them, but they sort of use that as a preview. And so then you, like in Metroid, you start with all your abilities, then you get eaten by a space dragon, and he spits you out, and you only have your core abilities still intact. And the rest of the game is therefore about getting them or recollecting them one at a time. It's sort of seen as frustrated and maybe even antiquated by some, but it can serve as a motivation tool and sort of like a really nice initial sense of progression track. Like I know exactly what items I'm going to get, and I know what they do all together, but now I'm going to learn how to use them one at a time and basically earn them back. So yeah, tracks of progression and accomplishment with key benchmarks and feedback are all really key to keeping a game engaging. Okay, so let's see. We can from here. I usually like to think of the first 30 to 40 minutes ish as like topics and, well, I'll just leave this up. Topics and discussion, recapping what we went into last week. I have plenty more topics we could go into, but I was sort of thinking that we would check in with everyone, and maybe we will ask if you were with us, or if you've been with us before, or maybe you have started playing around with Unreal, and maybe you've made a couple little things, or just played around with it, or have something that you want to show or ask about. That'd be fine. If you're brand new, maybe you can tell us about yourself, what you're hoping to learn, what you're hoping to make, or what you'd like to build up to over time, what skills or what aspects of Unreal are interesting to you, whatever you want. We're going to go straight down the list, so I'll start at the top with Jessica. I'll just leave the footage going, why not?
Hello. I have no idea what you were asking. I got distracted.
That's fine. We were just asking on an update on your progress, or maybe what you're hoping to work on next.
Well, games specifically, I'm working on the maze. I'm trying to make it into a horror dungeon-esque thing. And then once I can figure out how and what to change the cubes into, I plan on making them more interactive.
Okay. Are you working up towards a specific project? Go ahead.
Eventually, I plan on doing more of a story mode type of games, a little more puzzles and things like that, but that's after I get the basics down.
Great. All right. Sounds good. Let's keep going. Cosmic, go ahead.
Sorry, guys, I was on a different website there. Yeah, my name's Kev. I'm Kev Gallagher. I'm from Scotland, hence my funny accent. You guys probably can't understand. And I live in Australia, and I've recently set up my own indie studio called Cosmic Pyramid Games, and I'm in the process of developing my first game. It's a VR, narrative-driven VR mindfulness game. So immersive storytelling with kind of mindfulness and meditation elements embedded in there in VR.
Awesome, thank you, Kev. And how much experience do you have with Unreal, if any?
Yeah, I started dabbling in Unreal about a year ago, moving over from Unity, and honestly really been enjoying it. It's really my preference now. So keen to. I've never made anything in VR in Unity and Unreal rather. So that will be a new learning curve for this project if I decide to create it in Unreal. But I'm hoping that will be the case. I don't know about any of you guys if you guys are know if Unreal is any good for VR or if any of you guys have experience there.
I personally don't. If anyone else does, feel free to weigh in. I've never worked with VR before, and am myself pretty new with Unreal. My name's Connor, by the way. I think I did not introduce myself somehow at the beginning. But for anyone who's new, I'm the instructor at Script Camp, which is our sort of writing-focused server, and I'm just getting into game design. I'm not actually an expert in this, so anyone who knows anything more than me, we're always glad to hear from you, and I'm in no way positioning myself as like, I'm the instructor for Unreal. I'm simply a couple tutorials ahead of everyone else, and that's why I'm sort of leading it as more of like a learning group where we can sort of all learn together and maybe explore in different directions. For instance, if you are interested in more the VR direction, we have some people that are interested more in 2D games. So I feel like the more we spread out, we can divide and conquer and sort of learn everything and help teach each other.
Excellent. Nice to meet you, Connor. I know you other guys.
Thanks, Kev. Let's keep going. Luke, did I skip someone?
No.
I skipped a bunch of people. I'm not going directly in order. That's okay. Go ahead, Luke, and then I'll call someone else.
Hello, I'm Luke. What's the question? Just what I want to make next?
Yeah, what are you inspired by? How much experience do you have with game design and Unreal? Whatever you want to share.
So I've used Unreal Editor for levels like for the game Unreal way back in the day, like Unreal Tournament. So this is all Greek to me. This Unreal 5 is, I'm gonna have to basically be learning it from scratch, but that's okay. I'm interested in all kinds of game design and games. I talked about Ninja Gaiden Black is one of my favorite games. Elden Ring. I like old school retro games. I make maps for Quake 1, 1996. And interestingly found that you can import maps from Trench Broom, which is the editor I use for Quake levels. You can sort of import those into Unreal. So I'm going to be doing that probably quite a bit for the level design portion. And I'm very interested in 2D games and pixel art and that kind of thing. I'm not sure Unreal is sort of the best platform to do that stuff on, because it's, like why drive a Porsche to the grocery store kind of thing. Yeah, it's late for me here. I've been up pretty early in the morning doing writing and stuff all day, so my brain is scrambled, but I'm here and I'm going to try to learn. I got my little window open with my project, my FPS thing with the cubes.
Great.
So.
Okay, thank you, Luke. Let's keep going. Jessica, did I already call on you? I think I accidentally skipped you. Why don't you go ahead?
No, I was the first one to go.
Oh, you were the first to go. My mistake. Okay, let's hear from Joel.
Hello. I'm definitely not meant to be here because I'm not doing game design, and I'm meant to be going to med, so I'm just listening for a little bit. The closest thing I've done to like game design is like using Scratch, which is like a tool for elementary schoolers to like learn how to code and that kind of thing. Like that's basically all the experience I have. So yeah. Just here to listen, basically.
All right, thank you for that. And Joel has taught classes on Code Camp before, so you definitely have some
Yeah, I
more
was gonna
coding
say-
experience than most of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do have software development experience. So I spend a lot of my time at the moment building Discord bots. I've made website, and I'm currently trying to build an app. But that's not a game. So yeah.
Right. True. Okay. Thank you, Joel. Let's hear from Explore 3D. Okay, if you're not able to speak for the moment, we can come back to you. If you didn't notice, your mic is muted, so you would have to click that gray microphone icon to speak aloud. But we will come back to you in a moment. Let's hear from Nacho. Oh no, Nacho, are you there? He says he can't talk at the moment. That's all right. We have one more, VFX. Perhaps you're with us? What was the name? Visual Freaks, not VFX. Okay, maybe not able to speak aloud at the moment either. That's okay, we're glad to have you guys along. Thank you for joining us all. So we are going to be working in, did I skip anyone? I got everybody, right? Okay, cool. So why don't we go right into our recap of the tutorial that it wouldn't even be a recap because we didn't get very far into it last time. So I may just go a little quicker through those first couple steps. But let's open up our Epic Games accounts and launch your Unreal Engine, this thing. And why don't you open up a new FPS level, which you can get to by launching the engine. And you can open default FPS level. And I'm going to link this tutorial in the chat, or my learning log, which includes the tutorial. So anybody can follow along if they want. If you're going to follow along this way, I'd recommend download the PDF of it so you can zoom in a little closer on the images. Okay, so you're going to bring up this window, you go to Games, and you're going to open First Person, and you're going to call it Target Game or something like that. And we'll open up Unreal. And we're going to make just a super simple target shooting game. You have 10 cubes. You shoot the cubes. The cubes are destroyed when they're shot. You're counting up to a winning score of 10. Jessica already did all this in her maze game, so this won't be the rest of the entire group. This will just be a recap for you. But for others, I want to make sure we're getting just some of these basic things down, things like functions and integers and blueprints and everything like this. So while we are in our window for Unreal, let's just go over very basic camera. You can hold right-click to look around in the viewports. You can use WSAD while you are holding right-click to fly around as if you were in a video game.
I'm trying to.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna have to just close the chat. If anyone's saying anything important, say it out loud.
Okay.
I have single monitor problems. Okay.
Understood.
So yeah, say that again.
So you can hold right-click to look around. And while holding right-click, you can use W, S, A, and D to fly around in 3 dimensions. So everything that you see here in the 3D plane exists in this level that we're in. The game is divided into levels that you can transition between as your player moves through the game. You guys know how levels work, I think. Everything that's in the level is represented up here by the outliner, so everything can be selected by either clicking on it in 3D space or by clicking on it in the outline. So if you delete something from the physical space, it will be gone from the outline, and vice versa. So if you can delete something from here, it will be gone from the game. Or you can also right-click on these and edit any of the objects that way. So you don't need to find something in the physical space in order to affect it. We have a couple different object manipulation modes. They're at the top of your screen next to the arrow, and the shortcuts for these are right above your fingers. So Q, W, E, R. Q for the arrow to select things by just clicking on them. We have W, which will give you the transform or translate, which means in this case transform like move around the map. This will expose these control arrows, which you can click and drag to move the objects on just a single plane at a time. X, Y, Z, or Z if you're one of our European friends. And then you can use the rotate. R is not for rotate. E is rotate. That's weird. We just have to deal with it, but then you can grab the object on these by its axes and rotate it that way. As you're moving stuff around, hold shift and the camera moves with it, which is really handy. You can scale by clicking the R or pressing this one here. Scaling normally is not done in proportion. It's done just on one axis and one proportion at a time. If you want to keep the proportions the same, you'll have to go to your details panel, down to the transform window, and click this lock icon, just like in Photoshop. This will constrain the proportions, so then you can just simply click on one of these fields and drag left or right to make an object bigger or smaller.
Could you repeat all that?
Sure. Starting where?
The transform, just that last bit that you just did.
Okay, so in the bottom, in the details panel on the right-hand side, when you have an object selected, you can see its coordinates for where it sits in the 3D space. So that's called the transform. Now you can type in these coordinates on your own, or you can click and drag these individual fields to move them up and down, and therefore sort of move an object in just one direction at a time. You can also grab the scale and make it bigger or smaller.
Okay.
Everybody got that?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm still just amazed people actually use this to make geometry.
Do you have a question?
No, I get it. I think I get it so far. It's just, you know, it hasn't gotten much user friendlier in the many years that it is. Anyway, go ahead.
I see. Okay. Yeah, when you get into like shaping landscapes and stuff, you're not exactly dragging in cubes and spheres and things. This is just
I know this has tri-soups. I don't remember what they're called. They're called like we'll get to it. It's a terrain mesh or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, it's not like making the whole world is not just dragging in these shapes, but they're helpful for blocking out the basic design of the level.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you move around and look around in the 3D space here. So now we're going to go into the content window, which is this bottom left button, or you can do Control Spacebar. This is where all of your assets for the game go. An asset is just something that plays some kind of role or goes into the game. It can be a character model, it can be a piece of a character model, it can be an effect, it can be a game mode or something like that. Let's go ahead and make your game mode. So you'll have to, first of all, just add a new folder for your game. So go to Content and click Add and Folder, and you'll just call it Target Game. And then in there you can make your new game mode. So a game mode is a type of actor. Actors are things that you place into the level, or sometimes there's two types of actors. There's sort of what we might call off-stage actors, and that would be things like the game mode. And that doesn't really have a graphical component. That's just a series of rules. And then we have what we might call on-stage actors too.
How do you add an actor?
Go ahead.
How do you add an actor?
Oh, you right-click. You go to Create a Basic Asset, where it says Blueprint Class.
Right-click where?
In your content drawer.
Okay.
Blueprint Class.
Blueprint Class, okay.
And actors at the top.
Gotcha.
Oh, sorry. But in what we're making right, so that's how you make an actor. But what we're making right now is a game mode. So you'll actually go down to game mode base, not actor at the moment. We'll make an actor in a minute. So normally the way that you tag things is with the two first letters of whatever it is. So a game mode would be GM_target game, and these are just going to be the rules for how your little mini game here works. Like you're going to count up the score. When we get to 10, we're going to restart from the beginning. So before we go into that, let's go into your level blueprint. And I'm just going to basically show off how blueprints work really quickly with the debugging. So you can click this button at the top to access your world blueprints. That's going to be the rules that apply to the entire level. Open level blueprint. And what you're seeing here is now an event graph. So an event graph is like a corkboard that you stick note cards to, and you connect those note cards to tell instructions on what to do. So right now there's nothing in the level blueprint at all. There's nothing that's supposed to happen in this level. You could even simulate it by clicking the plus button and look around and see, well, what do we have? We have a gun and a character that can jump and shoot the gun. And that's all. There's no other instructions, no other criteria, metrics of advancement, objectives, enemies, challenges, or anything else. We're in a totally blank space. So we're going to go into your level blueprints. And we're going to add your first node, which by right-clicking and typing in event begin play and pressing enter. From there, you can grab the executive pin, and think of this pin as meaning and then. So the game starts, and then we will do what? So you can click and drag out from that pin and get a print string to display text on the screen. This will say, welcome to the game. You can type in whatever you want. This is the simplest demonstration of what a blueprint is and how it works. So an event graph, we'll start with an event on the left, which are these red nodes. Notice there's nothing else that can plug into this. This just starts a chain of logic, as we say. So the logic is going to be the nodes themselves and how they interact, how they interface with each other, the instructions that each blueprint is following. So when the game starts, it will display a message that says, welcome to the game. That's our first rule and procedure. Let's see it work. So I'm going to click play. And then up in the top left, you can see in really small blue text, it says, welcome to the game.
Where did you... Oh, you just clicked the play button. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you the most important thing here, which is debugging mode. It's this little field at the top of every blueprint. So if we want to see the nodes firing in action, so we want to see the instructions being carried out, then you would click that button, and now when you play the game, or when you simulate the game starts and the node fires right away. See the red line?
How did you do that?
I went into debug mode for the blueprint that I'm in by clicking this button at the top, and I clicked on first person map, which is the name of the map that we're in.
Wait, hold on. Go to debug and do that. Go back one step.
Okay, so I've opened the level blueprints by clicking this button at the top and pressing open level blueprint. Then I've made an event begin play that connects to a print string that says welcome to the game.
I have that, yeah.
Then at the top I've clicked this debug field and I've clicked which object I want to debug, which is the first person map.
Debug field. Oh, of course I can't see it. I have single monitor problems. It's hidden behind stuff. Hold on.
Okay.
No, I don't see it. What is it called?
This is like the debug object, so it's a field at the top of every blueprint right here, next to the simulate
object.
buttons.
I'm gonna try searching for it.
You shouldn't need to. It should be just right at the top of every event graph. If you need to load the default settings again, you can go to Window, Load Layout, Default Editor Layout.
Try it. All right. Oh, I gotta open the thing again. God, it is too late and my brain is tired. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Window, and then what was it called?
Layout.
Layout.
Load Layout. Default Editor Layout. And that will reset all the windows to how...
Oh, no, I did that. I'm trying to open the thing that you're at now, the event graph.
Okay, you're trying to open the event graph for the level blueprint, so you can find that by clicking this button here and pressing Open Level Blueprint.
Which button?
At the top.
Green is like so tiny. Okay.
I'll zoom in.
Top, new blueprint class.
No, we're going
open
to...
level boot.
Oh yeah, right here.
Okay. Alright. Open level blueprint. We got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I found it.
Okay, and then when you have that, you can make your event begin and print string, and the debug object should be just above right here.
Right.
Everybody else see that okay? Let me know. Luke, are you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't working earlier, but it's working now. We're doing it. It's good.
Okay, you found the debug object field here?
and it's connecting. It's doing the red thing when I hit play.
Okay.
Little red dots.
Great. Sounds good.
So we're good.
Okay, we'll go to the next step then. So with that, you can set the story for your game if you want. You can write the cubes have attacked our base. And you can consider that to be the extent of the narrative here. Okay. So before we go any further, let's make sure... So we've made your game mode, right? We haven't written any rules for it yet, but we're going to just make sure the game initiates your game mode. So we're going to go to Edit. Oh, sorry. Window. World Settings.
Oh, hold on. Wrong
Okay.
window. I'm still in the event viewer. I guess I just got to minimize it. Okay, so edit, and then go ahead.
So right now you're going to bring up your world settings, which you can find by going to Window, World Settings.
All right, window, world settings.
Yep. That'll open them on the right side of the screen. And what you want to find is game mode. And the game mode override you're going to set to the name of the game mode you just made. So that was GM target game for me.
Did I not do that? Let me check my... Did I not name it?
And then the next thing you'll do is you will need to just switch out these three fields here. So you got to set the game mode override so the game knows what mode we're playing in. You haven't written the rules for it yet, but we just want to make sure it activates when the game starts. You're going to change out the... Go ahead.
I think I missed a step, and I might have to just skip it. It might be important, though.
How can I help?
My brain is malfunctioning. I've been up since like 4 in the morning, so...
Did you bring up the world settings?
Oh my god, I just can't. I got 3 windows open and I'm trying to watch this on this tiny little thing. Okay, I have the event viewer. There was something that you did at the event viewer before you moved on, or right after that.
We're really just demonstrating. We haven't really done anything. We haven't made anything in the game yet, so you haven't missed anything important.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm following along. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so did you make the game mode already?
The game mode. I think that was it. I think that's how do you do that?
I think you already did. It's when you right-clicked in the content drawer and you selected Create Blueprint Class, and you clicked on Game Mode Base.
Yeah, but I don't think it saved it when I did the thing. Oh my god, why didn't it save it? Why do I have 2 projects going simultaneously now after I reset it to default?
You may have just opened this another copy of the same level, maybe? It's possible to have multiple instances.
Yeah, but like one, I think I opened one that like didn't have anything edited, and it like overrode the other one. Okay, content drawer. I have like this new blueprint class, but it doesn't have anything in it.
Okay, that's all right. It shouldn't have anything in it yet. You just need to name it something. So I named mine GM_target game as the name of my target shooting game.
And how do you name it?
F2.
Okay, right click, and then where do you rename it?
Directly on the name. You shouldn't have to right click actually. Or you can press F2
Oh, it was
while
just
it's selected.
fiddly. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm doing my best.
That's okay. Can I ask, is everyone else following along okay? Is anyone else there? Luke, it's just us, I think.
What does the chat say? I have to run.
Can anyone
If
hear
it
me?
helps, you can
besides
make
Luke?
the stream full screen.
We're all
could
good,
make
man.
it-
Go ahead.
I could make it full screen if I had a second monitor, but I don't have that.
That's all right. Oh, Jessica has to leave. That's all right. Thanks for coming by, Jessica. Sorry you didn't get to stay for a second hour. We'll do more tutorials next time. Throwing in the towel. Okay, that's all right. I understand. We'll see you next time. Explore 3D says I'm listening. That's okay. Okay, so it might just be Luke following along with the tutorial for the moment.
All right.
Unless, Kev, do you have it open as well? Are you following along with our tutorial today or just watching?
Oh, sorry. I had to do something for 10 minutes, so I kind of missed the startup. But I'm fairly familiar with Unreal, so I'm happy just kind of watching.
Okay, no problem.
Sure.
Then
Yeah,
yeah,
both
you
of
probably
us.
know more than we do in that case. This is probably looking like amateur hour to you. But we'll.
I'm by no means an expert. I'm still teaching myself, but happy just to watch this part.
Okay, no problem. So we'll probably spend if Jessica. So Jessica had to go. She was the one that completed this last time. So we'll finish. We won't do a new tutorial today. This will be our only tutorial for today. And I want to spend probably half an hour on this. Then I would love to spend the last half hour on brainstorming game ideas. I hope that sounds good to you guys. That's something we don't have to follow along a really finicky technical program for. So go ahead. Okay.
I was just saying that sounds good. Yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So, Luke, where are you at the moment?
I'm looking at similar screen to what you're looking at.
Okay, so you've made your game mode. Did you go into the world settings to change the default game mode?
Maybe. Where are those?
So you go to Window and World Settings,
Okay.
and they'll show up over on the right side of your
Sure.
screen.
Okay.
And you go down to
And
Game
then
Mode.
Game mode
Mhm.
override. Has to be. There it is. Okay, yeah, I did not do that. I have done that now.
So there's three things you have to change. Game Mode Override to the name of your game mode. Then you change the default pawn class to BP underscore first person character, so it knows which character you will be playing as in the game.
That's under. Where is that?
Directly under Game Mode.
Default pawn class? Oh, okay. Selected game mode. There's like a secret. Okay, I gotcha.
Mhm.
And then change it to what? I can't quite see.
So you change default pawn class
Just
to
my-
BP underscore first person character.
BP. Okay.
And
So that's going to be our guy.
yep.
And then player controller.
Yes.
I'm never going to remember the difference between these two things.
I can explain the difference. So, if you think of a game like Mario Kart, there's only one player controller class because A is go and B is stop and Z is use the item, right? That doesn't change for anyone. But there's a bunch of different pawns to choose from. You can choose from Luigi, Mario, Peach, Toad, Bowser, Wario, etc. And they may have different characteristics, but they all control the same.
Okay. So pawn class is Mario Kart Racers and player controller class is Mario Kart.
Yeah, the Mario Kart control scheme or control layout.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like go-kart racing, basically.
Right. Hope that makes sense.
That's if it doesn't make sense, it'll be how my brain remembers it anyway.
Okay. So once you swap those out, let me know when you're ready for the next step.
Ready for the next step.
Okay, we're going to go into your game mode now. So now we've ensured that when the game starts. So first of all, just to test it, just click play it really quick and make sure you can move around, because if not, then
All
something
right.
hasn't loaded incorrectly.
So far, so good.
Okay, and you can pick up the gun and shoot it and jump.
Yep. With the very loud default volume.
Yes. Okay, let's continue. So next, you're going to go into your game mode. Double click it to open up its event graph. It may not show up by default, so you'll have
Double
to
click it where? Go into the game mode.
Yeah, in the content browser.
Okay. Content drawer.
Yeah, content drawer, content browser, whatever it's called.
And then, okay, and now just next step.
Okay, so open that up and make sure you're looking at the event graph. So it may be that you have to click open full
Okay.
blueprint editor at the top.
Oh my god, hold on. Event graph. Window event graph, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, well, no. So if you're
Let's
looking
see
at
it.
just a list of sort of details, look at the top for small blue text that says open full editor.
I don't see the event graph.
Okay, what are you looking at?
I'm just at the default screen at the map thing. I'm trying to find how to open I'm under window. I don't see it.
Oh, okay. So you'll need to just go in the content drawer and just double click on the GM_target game mode to get it.
Double click on the GM. Is that what you named your game mode?
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. And then okay. This is not what you are looking at, but it is something.
Okay.
It has a bunch of little tabs and stuff.
At the top, do you see some blue text that says Open Full Editor?
Yes.
Okay, click that.
Okay. I am never going to remember how to get here. All right, full blueprint editor. We're here.
Okay, so now we're looking at the event graph, and we can go into your variables on the left-hand side, and we can create the variables for the score and for the winning score. And you do that by just clicking the small plus.
Okay.
So I'll make one down here called score, and make sure to set it to an integer. I'll make another one called winning score.
Just regular integer.
Yep.
Integer 64. Okay.
Yeah, just regular.
Score and winning score.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, next you'll have to compile the blueprint by clicking the yellow button in the top left. And then it will allow you to edit the values of this blueprint. So by clicking on winning score, you should now be able to, over on the right, change that value to whatever you want your winning. How many cubes do you want to shoot? Let's say 5 or 10 or something? 5?
Sure. Where do you put the number?
Default value.
Default value winning score. Why is it so fiddly? 5. There we go.
Okay, you got that?
Yes.
Great. So now you have, in your game mode, we have the score value, which is like your current score, and then we have the number that you have to hit, so that's the maximum number that you have to get to. I'm going to show you how to call a variable on the event graph. You just click and drag it onto the event graph right from the left side of the screen, and you can either get it or set it.
Okay.
So you'll do that a lot.
Go back to the left side. Where did you drag it from?
From the variable.
Alright, variable, you just drag it?
Just click and drag, yeah. Right onto the graph.
I don't know if it worked.
What did it do?
Oh, okay, I just had to click the other thing. Okay, score and winning score. Why do they look different than yours? Hold on.
Are they integers?
Mine has like a giant set at the top. I delete that one and try
Oh,
again.
probably because you dragged it on and just press set. You can get it or you can set it the same way, just by dragging it on from the left. So that would be if you wanted to change the winning score at one point. But you already set the default value, so you shouldn't need to change it.
Okay.
All right.
So that thing will change it. I get you.
Right. That's how you establish a new value for the score. Okay. Let's go to the next step, which is going to be you are going to create a function to increase the score. So within that event graph that you're in, under functions, which is right above variables, you'll click plus, and you'll make a new function called increase score.
How do you make a new function? Oh, plus, right?
Yeah, click the plus.
Increase score.
Yep.
All right, it's there. It's
All right.
purple, and it's right at the origin by the looks of it.
Yep, that seems right. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill in the logic as follows. So as it looks like this. You're going to start from increase score and drag out to a plus plus node. So type in plus plus integer.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to the end of this step, honestly.
You got
That's
this.
a lot.
Here, do it alongside me. So we'll start with the, where is it? We'll start with the plus plus integer. So plus plus, and click on the one increment integer. Let me know when you're ready.
Increment float, increment integer. Okay,
Yep.
increment integer. We've done it.
Okay, so next you're going to get the score. So like before, you're going to drag from the variable onto the event graph.
And then get score.
Yep, you got it. And it's asking, so what do I... So when increase score has been called, and then we're going to add one. But to what? We're going to add one to this. And you link them together.
Okay.
Got that?
So both of those nodes are outputs? Or how does that work?
So that's...
What is the little green node? Why is it different than the white node?
So the different colors reflect different types of inputs. So like variables, or like integers have this teal color, for instance. Vectors are yellow. Booleans are red.
Okay.
All these colors here.
But on the little plus plus thing, it has a exec and a result or something. Or value.
Yeah, so the exec pin says what we do next, so and then something else. And you can take the value of the increased score and do something with that as well.
Okay.
That's what that pin's for.
Interesting. It's like many different kinds of Legos
Yeah.
that connect in different ways.
It's like Legos. It's kind of like building a little radio. Like you got to connect all the little wires, make sure the transistors are connecting to the whatever it is.
Right.
Are you ready for the next step?
Yep.
Okay, so you've got the plus one. You've gotten the score. Now you're going to do a print string, and this is your last node for this part. And the print string is going to display the new score. So we're going to make sure we hook up the score value to the in-string value, so it'll create this little converter for us automatically. You don't even have to make that. And this is how we display the new score once it has been increased. Increase score, and then add one to the score, and then display it.
Oh my god. There's just a certain hour of day where my brain refuses to learn new things. So I can see the diagram. You just want me to make all of that happen on my screen right now?
Well, you're almost done with it. You just need one more node. Print string.
The print string. What about those other two nodes?
One of those is created for you when you connect these two values.
Okay. And then what, do I have to name it something?
No, you're going to get the value for the string from the score. So click from the score and connect it to in-string like that. And it'll make that little converter for you.
Okay. Little converter. How do you move around on this window?
Hold right click to drag.
Okay.
And you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out.
This is so frustrating with one monitor. So that's it. We're done. It doesn't have any other values I have to input.
No, there's more, but that's just all done with the step. If you would like to stop for today, we can also stop at some point if you feel like you're just not able to learn
let's stop
anymore.
after this step.
Okay.
If that's the end of the step. Let's stop here.
Okay, that's all right. We can finish next time if you want.
All right, file save.
But can we go over quickly what you just made?
Sure.
Okay, so the increase score is a function within the event graph of your game mode. So you can now that you have sort of created this function, you can now call that function from other blueprints. So it'd be much easier now. For instance, we could say increase score. When the game starts, increase the score, and it's like a stack of note cards. It has like all the instructions on just this one little card, but really it's doing all of everything from here all at once. Does that make sense? It's like a folder with instructions in it.
Womp 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 womp. Basically what I heard just now. So I'm trying.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I? Is there a different way I could explain it, or do you have a question?
I'm just gonna have to like read the tutorial when it's an earlier hour in the day.
Okay, I
Perhaps.
understand. No problem. Okay, so we'll pause there for now, and later this week, Luke, maybe we can finish up the target shooter and move on to other things. We
Sure.
will. I will repeat that I have written out all these tutorials, and these are all in my learning log document, which you can access here on Game Camp in our pinned message on the chat on this chat channel. So you can find that over here by going to Unreal Engine Workshop. Whoop, right here. And if you click on the push pin at the top, you can access all of my pinned learning log, master document, blueprint dictionary, and the links to download and install Unreal Engine itself. Okay, so we can stop there for now. And on your own, if you'd like, you can follow along and complete that first one, or I have a door making tutorial in there as well. So for the last part, why don't we do a whiteboard online? Let's do a whiteboard and let's do a game idea brainstorm. So I'm going to leave a link in the chats. Feel free to open this up. Join me on the whiteboard. Game Camp.
Join
Video
us.
game idea brainstorm. All right. Let me know if you guys were able to get in there okay.
All right.
Cool. All right, I see a couple little pens floating around here. So you can do whatever you want in this. Really, this is just so we can all be looking at the same stuff. Adding in text, images, you can copy and paste in images as long as you don't put in anything horrifying. To begin with, I'm going to just make a list of genres here, and maybe this will inspire you guys to talk about some genres that you like or are interested in exploring, or some central mechanics you're interested in exploring. But why don't we open the floor to anyone that would like to speak about their many different game ideas, ask for feedback, maybe share the progress you've made, or brainstorming you've already done. Feel free to speak up.
I have a very old idea for a game about sort of a siege warfare kind of thing with like millions of units, and you play as like one guy on the battlefield, and the gimmick is sort of there's so many units that they pile up, and you can sort of like use the bodies to climb over walls and things to get inside castles, and
That sounds cool. Like World War Z almost.
kind of thing. Kind of, yeah.
Did you see the World War Z movie where the zombies are like climbing over walls and stuff by stacking up?
Yeah, that scene, I had a dream like that when I was a little kid, and I thought that would be the coolest game.
That could work, yeah. Were you thinking this would be 2D or 3D?
Definitely 3D. It'd be like sort of like first person or close third, sort of like a Mountain Blade kind of thing, but with just tons of cannon fodder that piles up on the field.
Right. Okay, and are you directing them?
I'm not sure. You could do it sort of like Dynasty Warriors, where it's sort of you control your general and the things you do sort of influence the battlefield, but you don't sort of directly control anything.
Okay. So I'll make you a little spot for it over here. Let's just call this Soldier Pile-Up game for the moment.
Okay.
So are we solving puzzles, or what are we doing?
I mean, just piling up bodies to get inside castles, mainly just fighting. It's like Dynasty Warriors, except with like dismemberment and environmental damage. I don't know how to explain that.
But with the central
Not-
idea of stacking up the guys, right?
Kind of. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to work on this one.
Okay.
I have too many ideas, honestly.
Okay. Do you want to think about it for a minute, and I'll come back to you?
Sure.
Okay. Feel free to add more to your own little area as you think of ideas. Make a little list. Who else wants to chime in?
Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
Can you see my mouse?
Are
I
you-
can't tell if my mouse is floating about on this.
Yeah, I see a red one. I think that's you.
You see, is that me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Look. So, well, as I said, I'm in the middle of developing a kind of narrative-driven VR exploration game, but that kind of sits somewhere in between a game and a mindfulness experience. So I might move on from that into what my true kind of dream project, which is an action RPG, third person, yeah, fantasy game
Cool.
that I've had in my peripheral for quite some time. The only reason I'm not making that yet is because I want to get more experience and fuck up a few times before I make that
Yeah.
and learn from my mistakes. You know, so one of the things I hear quite a lot in game design and is don't make your dream game first. So, so I'm holding off to fail a couple of times before I make that. But it's definitely a passion project, and I think it would. I don't know if any of you played Kena Bridge of Spirits. It's kind of. I think it sits somewhere in between that and maybe Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay.
Kind of.
Got
Kind
it.
of idea. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, with some, just exploring ancient ruins, uncovering ancient magic, super story driven, because I love story, and yeah, just really beautiful, stylized environment like Kena Bridge of Spirits. Except maybe a little more on the adult side.
Mhm.
I think Kena Bridge of Spirits was probably a little bit more for a younger audience. I want to make it a lot for a little bit of an older audience, a little bit more violent and yeah, just a little bit more mature.
Great. Okay. What central mechanics are you interested in if you've thought that far?
So I want there to be a lot of like climbing, exploring ancient ruins, uncovering like puzzles in ancient ruins to discover magic. So maybe something like puzzles, Tomb Raider style puzzles in ancient ruins, which at the end of it you uncover a piece of the ancient magic that the ones that came before, let's call them, used to harness thousands of years ago. So yeah, puzzles, magic, and then each the end goal is, but when you've got all the elements of magic, you're then equipped to defeat the final boss, basically.
Oh, okay. Is it the sort of thing where you
What?
can get to the final boss at any point, but like you're supposed to level up enough before you go and try to confront him?
Look, I don't. No, you can't confront him until you've uncovered all the magic.
Okay, so more of a linear
So
linear structure.
yeah, a little bit more linear. Like I'm toying with the idea of linear and open world. Certainly semi-open world. It's probably an open world, but certain parts of the story won't uncover until you've reached a certain level. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, like the Zelda games work like this, don't they? Or I haven't played the recent ones, but when I was a kid, I played, Ocarina of Time and things like this. They're basically open worlds. You're not really like pushed to go through the main story, but it's not as big as the modern day open world. Like it's not Assassin's Creed, it's not like GTA. It's more like hub areas that you can find multiple little side quests and things like that in.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of little side quests. I really love exploring um, different environments and communicating with NPCs and doing missions for them. Not to the point where it's overwhelming, like you said, Assassin's Creed, where you're just, there's just a side mission round every corner. Not really so much as overwhelming as that, and a lot of just kind of go and collect this item for me and bring it back, or go and save this person who's been missing and bring them back to me. Like, more meaningful story. I want more meaningful side missions, so not just kind of throwaway ones that actually have their own meaningful story.
Yeah, the Witcher games are pretty good about that. I think
yeah, that's right. Yeah, dead on. Yeah, that's a perfect example.
They're not just filler. Like, if you look at like JRPGs, they'll often have a lot of quests that you could basically are filler, like fetch quests and escorts, and sort of almost feel random. They don't really matter though. They don't really have interesting stories.
Yeah, that's right. Like you said, filler missions, fetch missions. Yeah, probably less them and more. Yeah, more meaningful stories. As I've mentioned, stories one of my favorite parts about playing games. So I want to make sure that's reflected in my own games.
Right, for sure. Cool. This sounds like a good starting point. Seems like you have a pretty solid idea of the kind of game it is and where it would sit on a shelf and things like that. I mean, especially if you plan to sell this. It's a marketable genre, especially in the Souls-like kind of world. Like, those are very popular, even in the indie space. So
yeah, cool. Thanks, man.
So I think something that would be fun to brainstorm, maybe just for next time, start thinking more along these lines also, of specific mechanics that you want to take more advantage of in your game. So you're mentioning, like, climbing and solving puzzles in a Tomb Raider type environment. So I might just ask, like, what sort of tool for doing that have we not really seen before? We've seen a lot of games really playing around with, like, grappling hooks lately. Maybe you have something that's sort of as fundamental and fun as that, or maybe like a light mechanic, right? Like the Alan Wake games use light as their kind of central focus. So I would maybe think, what's interesting to you in terms of tools and ways the player could actually do these things? You don't have to have an answer now, but, like, I would just be thinking, even those really, on a really basic level, one or two things to sort of center the game around.
Yeah, that's a good question. I did fail to mention that the probably primary mechanic will be archery. So bow and arrow is my weapon of choice in most games. So my hero character will certainly be a skilled archer, and that will play into a lot of the obviously combat mechanics, but also I'd like to play around with using it for traversal as well, such as like rope arrows to navigate.
Oh, for like a zip line.
Gaps. Yeah, like kind of like a zip line, kind of like, I don't know if you watch the DC Comics show Arrow. You know how the way they kind of kicks about. He shoots an arrow off and then he kind of zooms up it like a zip line. Yeah, I love that. I think that just looks so fun. So I'd love to incorporate that as a traversal mechanic.
Yeah, that could be great, and you can do all kinds of different sorts of arrows. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah. Even possibly with upgradable kind of jump at the end. Like so zip line and then rocket off kind of thing. Yeah, I find that really fun to play around with in games. So kind of like in the Batman games, like he zip lines, zip lines and then shoots off, something like that.
Yeah, he kind of glides with his cloak.
Yeah, and then he glides. My character probably won't glide, but I'll find a way. If she's using magic as well, she can find a way back down safely.
Sure. You can always find some cool effect or some shockwave landing. Those are always fun too if you turn it into an attack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good idea. And also, I want her to have a companion, so like a kind of fantasy type of bird, like a fantasy owl or eagle or something. So maybe even the eagle can catch her when she's in the air and take her back down.
Oh, that'd be cool. The bow would interact with the bird, like you could catch the arrow and swing it, maybe.
Yeah, something. Yeah. And also, mention I'd like the bird to also help solve puzzles as well in the ruins, so access areas that we can't, and and whatnot.
Great. All right, lots of good ideas here. Yeah, even with just the bird and the bow, I would think there's a lot of gameplay you can get out of just those two things. Like, especially if you factor in different types of arrows. If you get like a grease arrow or like a slick arrow, you could make a surface sticky or slick and slide down it, or trap enemies in it. All kinds of stuff you can do with a bow. Cool. Luke, I see you've done us a lovely drawing here. Are these the corpses of your millions of soldiers piling up at the gates?
Yeah, basically. Uh,
And so, as just one soldier, you're saying that you would sort of just be influencing them in the direction you want them to go, and then using the results of their massacre to accomplish your own goals?
yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, it's just like big blobs of armies like colliding together. So there might, be color coded piles forming the longer the battle goes on, and you can maybe uh, I don't know how you would actually influence things. Um,
You know what it almost reminds me of is those old sort of physics-based sand games in the browser, like the Falling Sand game, I think it was called, where if we weren't in 3D, first of all, you could render the soldiers almost just using particle systems. Especially if you want to
Sure.
get like millions and millions of them, or like thousands, maybe not actually literally millions, but thousands of them certainly. Then you could those old games would sort of they would you would just have like a blank field like this, and you'd have different colors that you could draw on the. Did you play these? You'd have like wax, you'd have sand that would fall in like a sort of like drizzle. You would have like you could set fires. You could do water that would put out the fire. It was just like a physics sandbox experiment, basically.
okay.
Maybe I'm the only one that ever played these.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I did. I
But the
played
go
a
ahead.
physics program in school, and I made like a physics man out of it. Uh, like that we would drop off buildings and stuff. Anyway,
Okay, yeah, those are fun. Or
uh,
Line Rider, that was a fun physics-based browser game too. Became a DS game eventually.
I remember Line Rider.
So I was thinking though, so imagine like this is a 2D game, almost like a browser-based game. We have one castle over here. You have the other
Alright.
castle on the other side. My really good art.
And then you just dump in the armies. And,
Yeah, I
like,
guess. I mean, I wonder what they would be doing. If you have a plane, I guess maybe wouldn't have to be 2D side scroller style. You could have like multiple slots, I guess, perhaps of blobs that maybe you would advance across the. If this was like an iPad style game, maybe they would kind of. Huh. I wonder how would it work. How do you command a big blob?
yeah, okay. So an iPad, the iPad is like a bird's eye view of the whole battlefield,
Okay.
and there's a red blob and there's a blue blob for their armies respectively, and then there's sort of like all this battlefield geometry obstacles in between, and it's literally as simple as just like dragging the blob and like moving it, and it's kind of like, I don't know, Pikmin a little bit. Maybe some of the squads have like different effects and stuff, like units do different things, but you're
This
literally
actually
just
could
like
be
sort
kind
of
of
trying to
fun.
grab a blob and move it.
That's kind of good. So look, sort of like I guess it would just look like this, right?
Yeah, and the whole army would have like diverse units, but the blobs would kind of form naturalistically, and you would just kind of try to drag them around to where they go.
Right. Actually,
Uh,
believe it or not, someone's knocking on my door. This never happens. I do have to check that really quick. But
go ahead.
feel free to keep adding to this. I'll be right back.
Oh, this is interesting. You think he's coming back?
He'll be back.
Hey guys, sorry about that. I'm right here. I just have to sign something for my building people, like the landlord.
Okay.
I will be back. Hopefully you're still getting some good stuff done. We can still hear. You're still on the stream. The stream is still going, so hopefully.
Still streaming.
Yeah, feel free to. We have 20 minutes left, so feel free to continue with your game premises.
My MS Paint sketch.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that one. All right, I'll be right back. I think we'll wrap up for the moment. Anything you guys want to say before we head out? Maybe last thoughts, things you want to are interested in learning for next time.
Not sure. I'm gonna have to catch up on
Yeah,
this tutorial.
Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah. What have you got? What have you got lined up? I'm particularly interested in level design, environment art, obviously narrative design, also story elements, environmental storytelling. So that's my kind of go-to in game development. So I'm not sure if you want to chat a little bit about that or.
Me too.
We're going to want to cover the rest of this just basic blueprint tutorial, which goes into making this target game and kind of teaches how the essentials of blueprints work. And then after that, I had a couple other topics lined up, like health bars, damage, tracking values like that, mana or expendables for your character, doors and switches, and character animation. So I haven't gotten way too far into environment. I've just looked at some of the basics, but we could get more into character and animation next week if that's something you're interested in.
Look, characters aren't really my thing. I mean, I love characters, but I tend to stay away from them because I'm shit with anatomy. So I just focus on environments. But yeah, look, I'm happy to jump on board next time and see where it takes us.
Okay, great. I haven't gotten too far in environment yet, but I have made a couple just sort of like test runs. But we will explore more in that direction if that's where you want to go.
Come on.
All right. Well, we will wrap up for the moment. I do see a question. Has anyone worked with NVIDIA Omniverse yet? I'm not sure what that is. Visual Freak says they're heading out. That's fine. Okay, so we will wrap up for now. We're meeting every week at this time, Wednesdays at 6 Pacific. And we'll be going for the indefinite future for the moment. So I hope you guys can join us next time. We'll wrap up for now, and we will see you guys next week at the same time.
Why did you zoom in on my hideous MS Paint drawing?
Because it's the most visually compelling thing here.
This is so heinous looking.
Okay.
All right.